Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shot Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Sunday, January 22nd, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Sunday in college hoops. First up, we look at Indiana and Michigan State. This one's going to be 12 o'clock Eastern on CBS. It is very tough to beat Indiana at home. They've only got one home loss this season, and that was a 1-point loss to a very good Northwestern team, 84-83. And Michigan State, although they were really struggling to shoot the basketball up until that Rutgers game where we faded Michigan State, they got the better of us in that one. But Michigan State shot 12 of 22 from 3, 54.5%. You're just not going to be able to expect that in most games, especially in true road games against teams like Indiana. Very good defensive team, even better on the offensive side of things. They're going to be able to score plenty of points in this game, in my opinion. Coming off back-to-back wins over different styles of teams in the Big Ten. A game at home against Wisconsin where you beat them 63-45 in more of a defensive slugfest type of game. And then you beat Illinois on the road. You scored 80 points in a 15-point blowout win. A big true road win for Indiana. They're playing good basketball. I like their chances in this game, laying a pretty small number. Give me Indiana laying the points. Next up, we go to the Big East as Butler takes on UConn. This one's going to be 12 o'clock Eastern on Fox. Now, UConn has certainly struggled lately. They've lost 3 straight games and 5 of their last 6 after being one of the best teams and one of the only undefeated teams going into conference play. They won their first 3 conference games against Butler, Georgetown, and Villanova. One could argue 3 of the weaker teams in the conference this year. But, I still think if there was a bounce-back spot, a nice feel-good blowout win spot for UConn, this would be the one against the Butler team they already beat by 22 points, and that was when it was on the road. They held Butler to 46 points, and Butler's having a solid season this year. They're 11-9 overall, 3-6 in conference play, but I really just struggle to get there with Butler when they're playing these step-up spots, especially in a true road game. They've only got one win against a top 30 KenPom team this season. That was against Kansas State. It was back in non-conference play. It was a home game for Butler, and that was a game where Kansas State just did not shoot the ball very well. Butler did. But, when you look at a lot of the other spots where Butler's had to step it up in competition, games against Penn State where they lost earlier this season on a true road game. They lost to Tennessee in a blowout on a neutral site. They lost by double digits to NC State by 15 points at a neutral site. They already got blown out by UConn, like I mentioned. They lost to Creighton twice this season, both by double digits. And, I just don't think I can trust this team, Butler, whether they're playing on the road or at home, when they're playing these top 20, top 25 teams in KenPom or the AP polls. UConn is the better team on both sides of the ball by far. They've already proven they can beat this Butler team in blowout fashion. I think UConn gets a nice feel-good bounce-back win. I'm going to lay the points here with the Huskies at home. Next up, we go to the American Conference as Temple takes on Houston. This one's going to be 3 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. Now, we see that the conference records for both of these teams, Houston 6-0, perfect 6-0 so far in American play. Temple's not too far behind. They're 5-2, having a pretty good start to the season in conference play. Yet Houston is big favorites in this game, I think for good reason. When you look at the wins for Temple in the conference thus far, they beat East Carolina, South Florida, Tulsa, East Carolina, again, some of the weaker teams in the conference. They have a nice win over Cincinnati. That was a home game by 9 points, but none of those teams come even close to as good as Houston is this season, both on the offensive and defensive end of the court. Houston only 1 loss this year. It was a home game against Alabama. Really no shame in that. It's a very good Alabama team, but other than that, Houston's been taking care of business in conference play for the most part this season, scoring 80-plus points in most of their games. The defense has held up pretty well, and this is just a bad spot, in my opinion, for Temple on the road, a team that struggles in turnovers both on offense and defense, doesn't force many turnovers, has issues taking care of the basketball. That is no bueno against this Houston defense that's top 20 both in turnover percentage on offense and defense. They take care of the ball. They force plenty of turnovers. That's where I worry the most in this game. I think Temple could have 20-plus turnovers, and in a true road game, that's just not what you want to see. Houston is the king of the fast break. I think they score plenty of points in this game, enough to cover the big number in the end. Give me Houston in a blowout win. I'm going to lay the points. Next up, we go to the Pac-12 as Oregon State takes on California. The Cal Bears are going to be home here 3 o'clock Eastern on Pac-12 Network. Now, this is a game between 2 of the weaker teams. I would say the 2 weakest teams in the Pac-12 this season. Oregon State is 1-7 in conference play. They're 7-12 overall. Cal is 3-16 overall, and they're 2-6 in conference play. I think these teams are pretty even. When you just look at the numbers, offensively, defensively, pretty similar teams. Both struggle on both sides of the ball. Neither very good rebounding teams. Both teams have issues in the turnover department as well. But I will say, I do think Cal, being the home team, I think I've seen a little bit more from them in conference play as well. They do have those home wins over Colorado and Stanford. And, we saw Cal at the beginning of the season. Not only were they bad straight up, but they were also never covering numbers, whether they were favored or underdogs. But I do think they've been a little bit more competitive, even without Devin Askew, their best player. He's been out of the lineup for quite some time. They've actually played a little bit better without him in the lineup, and they're a good free throw shooting team. We know Oregon State has big-time issues at taking way too many fouls defensively. If Cal's going to be living at the free throw line on their home court, I do think that puts them in a good position to win this game outright. I also think Cal's been shooting the ball better just overall, not just at the free throw line. We saw in that game against Stanford one of the best three-point performances I've seen all season. 16 of 22, 72.7%. I couldn't even believe that when it happened. I still don't believe it now, but it just goes to show this team's been shooting the ball better. I think they're playing a little bit better defensively as well. Good enough for me to take Cal at this spot at a pretty good price. So give me Cal here in the battle of the two worst teams in the Pac-12. I'm going to take Cal. Next up, we go to the America East Conference for the final game we're going to talk about for Sunday's card. It's going to be a 1 o'clock Eastern start time between Bryant and UMass Lowell. This one's going to be on ESPN+. It's a pretty sneaky good game, in my opinion, between two solid teams in the America East this season. Both teams in the top 200 in KenPom. Both teams had pretty good non-conference schedules. UMass Lowell benefited from a pretty weak schedule. They won a lot of games. They were 12-2 in non-conference play, but they played mostly teams ranked outside the top 250, while Bryant, although they had a few more losses on the record, they played some tougher teams. They had that win over Syracuse in the Carrier Dome. They got a little chippy between the two teams, some ejections in that one. But I do think Bryant is the better team. They have that NCAA tournament experience, very well-coached team. Their first season in the America East Conference. They're playing pretty well. They're on a 3-game win streak. I like what I'm seeing from really on both sides of the ball from Bryant as of late. UMass Lowell, like I said, benefited from that weak schedule. We've seen them now in conference play look a little bit beatable. I mean, they lost 2 games to teams you would never expect them to lose to in Albany and Binghamton, 2 teams outside the top 300 in KenPom. I think this UMass Lowell team was hitting a lot of low percentage shots at high percentage rates at the beginning of the season, but you just can't rely on that for a full season, especially in conference play. I know this is a new conference rivalry. It's Bryant's first season, but I think Bryant takes this one. I'm going to take the Bryant Bulldogs. I'm going to take the points. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday in college basketball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.